It sounds like science fiction, but it is a reality. 3D food printing. And if you can literally print food, what does that mean for farming? Kerry State spoke to Dutch expert Dr. Kjeld van Bommel at the recent South Australian Food Summit.
First of all, what is 3D food printing?
3D food printing is, well, just like 3D printing, except we use food materials. So if you want to know what 3D printing is, it's you start off with a drawing in a computer, 3D object of some kind, which is then sliced by the computer into different layers. And each of these layers is then printed by a printer, one on top of the other, so that you end up with a 3D object that is the same as the design in the computer. And you don't need shapes or molds or any of those things. And if you do that with food, then it's 3D food printing.
Why do we need it?
Why do we need it? I don't know if we need it, but you can do very nice things with it that you cannot do with other technologies. For example, if you look at food production, typically the big food companies are very good at making lots and lots of products all the same. If you ask them to make, I don't know, 50,000 cookies an hour that are all different, they struggle. And with 3D printing, the variation is not in the equipment as it is with normal production, it's in the software. So you just send, similar to your printer at home, you can send 50,000 documents to your printer and it will print them out. And now you can send 50,000 object files to your printer and it will print 50,000 different things. So you can go to personalized food, and that can be the shape that is different for each person. You can have your name written on something, but you can also think of different food compositions so that you get food products that are suitable for single individuals and that are based on their metabolism, their nutritional needs, etc.
Now, the idea's been around for a few years now. How far has it progressed? I mean, what sort of food are we actually printing?
Commercially, you don't really see a lot of food being printed. However, in the Netherlands, for example, all pancakes that you find in the supermarkets that you put in your microwave, they are all printed. It's not 3D, it's a single layer, so it doesn't count as 3D. But they come out of a printer, an inkjet printer, similar to what you have at home, and they print 1 million a day of these. Here in Australia, the Jaffa cakes, the logos on top of the Jaffa cakes are now printed with the same technology, Dutch technology. Yeah.
So it's still very early days, though?
It's the early days for actual 3D objects, so where you print more than one layer on top of each other. That's not really being done industrially. But in the research environment, we do print a lot of different things. So chocolate, we've done pasta, we've done cookies, medical nutrition also. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people like to know how far this technology can go. I mean, in theory, can you print something that farmers produce? Can you print vegetables? Can you print meat?
Theoretically, possibly yes, but it's very complex. The reason why we started with printing chocolate and pasta and those kind of things is they're processed foods. So the structure actually of those kind of foods is simpler than the structure of an apple or a carrot or a piece of lettuce. If you want to replicate that, it's really, really complex, because if you eat it, it has a very particular texture that, and I don't know if we'll ever be able to replicate that. And even so, if you could, is it economically interesting to print an apple? I don't know. They're relatively cheap. Are people waiting for a printed apple? I don't know.
So it's not something that could potentially replace what farmers do?
No. In all cases, we still have to put food into the printer in order to get food out. So if we want to print an apple, the most suitable ingredients to print an apple would be an actual apple. So, I mean, to start off with an apple and end up with an apple is not very, very useful, I would say.
You're here talking about the future of food at this summit. Obviously, one of the pressing questions is, how are we going to feed a growing population? Do you see a role for 3D food printers in tackling that issue?
Well, this will be a bit further in the future, but we are looking into the use of alternative protein sources, for example, proteins from insects, proteins from algae, from grass. And if you can transform those kind of proteins into interesting products with maybe a very nice texture, etc., that people will want to eat, you can get more people to switch to those kind of protein sources rather than meat. And that could help feed a growing population.
At the moment, the focus has been more on aesthetics, on shaping food to make it a little bit more interesting or more appetising. Where are you seeing 3D food printing going now as far as health benefits and nutrition?
I think the shape will continue to be interesting. I mean, finely shaped chocolates, I think we'll be eating them thousands of years from now still. So that will continue, but I think indeed the more complex issues like personalized nutrition, and also what we're looking at now, can we create all sorts of textures with the food printer? Those are more complex, will take a little bit more time, but will just broaden the scope of what you can do with the food printer.
So what are you actually putting into practice at the moment? I think you're doing some work with a nursing home, is that right?
That's correct. We have a European project running with about 13 other partners. Actually the whole food chain from ingredients all the way to the nursing home. And we're printing personalized medical nutrition there. So this is for a very specific group of patients that have a condition called dysphagia. They cannot chew and swallow normal food, so they eat sort of baby food every day, which is not very appetizing. So we take the baby food, or we take the pureed carrot, for example. We print it into a carrot shape, and we also add extra nutrients, because these people eat very small portions, so they need extra calories basically in those carrots. So we put in extra sunflower oil, extra whey protein, but also extra vitamins and minerals, very specific mixtures that are suitable for the individual. So one portion of carrot will be completely different from the next portion.
Food is something that people are very passionate about. You know, you hear phrases of cooking from the heart. People are very interested these days in where their food comes from. There's that feel-good aspect about food, and yet this is quite a clinical approach to food production. Is that something of an issue that needs to be overcome? Is that a turn-off?
For some people it could be. On the other hand, there is a food printing company that has started, and they call themselves Natural Machines. And their whole philosophy is that this food printer is just like a blender in the kitchen, and it's a device that allows you to put fresh produce into this printer and print whatever you want. So they don't deliver products or materials with it. They give you empty cartridges that you can fill yourself with whatever you cook in your kitchen, and you can print it out. So their whole philosophy is actually that it will bring back people into the kitchen and make them start cooking rather than putting them off cooking.
What sort of feedback are you getting from people? What do people think of 3D food printers? Do they like it?
Typically, either they love it or they hate it. There's very few people that sort of ambivalent about it. It really depends also on what you're printing. We do quite a few demos where we take a printer and we print, for example, chocolate typically. I've never met anybody who wouldn't take a piece of printed chocolate, unless they don't like chocolate. But if we were to print a piece of meat, for example, I think a lot of people would be more wary about trying it out. But with things like chocolate, everybody likes chocolate, and it doesn't grow on trees anyway. So if you print it out in a funny shape, everybody's willing to try that, and there's no problems there.
Big picture stuff, where do you see 3D food printers in, say, another 5 years?
I think in 5 years there will be various food printers on the market, which will mean that lots of people can buy it. I think especially like professionals like bakers, caterers, people who own a restaurant, they will buy it, they will start to experiment with it. Sites will pop up where people share their experiences, share their recipes, etc., and it will grow from there. I think there will be some kind of 3D food printing community online. Already you see the first sites popping up where people exchange experiences or collect information on food printing, give suggestions. So that will happen, especially with prices that are predicted to be €1,000 or so, 5,000 for more complex machines. Those are prices that wouldn't stop people from buying it. So once people buy it and try it out, more stuff will happen also with respect to the kinds of foods that will be printed successfully. And I think it will snowball from there, definitely.